I welcome Veronika for this podcast. She's a two times MVP in AI. Trust me, being once an MVP is basically a dream for many people, and she is two times. And she has also worked in the community for a very long run, and she has seen how people behave in the community, like in terms of learning, in terms of the way they are professionally portraying themselves. Hey, I'm a professional in the community right now, and things like that. But what I'm here to discuss is basically her entire journey as a professional and her MVP journey, and which basically is going to motivate you all to achieve something more beyond what you see. So I welcome Veronika for this podcast. I think probably we are going to demystify a lot in terms of being the best professional in the world of AI.
Thank you, Vishwas. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, ma'am. Let's just move on to that questions, right? Like we have structured out in such a way that we cover everything from your education to the present day's problem statement which we encounter. I just want to start with that question of education. Like, how was your academic journey overall? Like, what did you really see that made you influenced in this world of AI, and what was that all about academics? Like, did you really get influenced because of the academics itself, or else how was it all about in your journey as an academic, like when you were a student?
Yeah. My journey is really interesting. Because initially I didn't want to be a software engineer. I wasn't planning on it. When I was finishing my high school, I wanted to be an economist. That was my dream. I wanted to work in a bank. But because I was a good student, I could apply to several schools. And I would just want to mention that I am from Russia, so I was born and raised back in Russia, and I got my undergrad there. So I applied for several schools, and then in one school they had double major option. So basically, for the price of one, you can get two majors. And I think my parents and we were so excited that we have that opportunity. So it was a combination of economics. The one major was in economics, and the second major was in computer science, and it was applied computer science, they call it, because it's more applied to economics, so those two degrees are not completely separate. Yeah, so and then the fun part is that after probably my second year I had my first internship, and it was in a bank, and I didn't like it at all. So after that, I was just focusing on that computer science part more. Obviously, I had to finish both of my majors since I started, but I never worked in as an economist, and I never used my economical knowledge at all. It's funny, but I think it's a good experience, and I'm glad that I realized what I like more early. So I didn't have to waste so much time and trying to figure out what is better for me. And then, yeah, after I graduated, I started working first as a quality assurance engineer, and then I moved to development, and then I moved to the US. I also went to grad school here. I got my master's in information technology. I never studied artificial intelligence properly, so I'm not a data scientist, although we had some courses here and there. Uh, but I think at that time it wasn't that popular, so I didn't pay enough attention to it. That's the downside. I wish I paid more attention to it at that time, so now I would be better. But it's okay because I got at some point of my life I got to understanding that AI is really cool. I'm really interested in it. I started implementing small things in my projects, but I'm not a data scientist. I am a developer who loves AI and who wants to integrate AI into different applications, whether it's mobile or web applications. And I think nowadays there are so many great solutions that help developers and solution architects to implement all kind of AI solutions, even if they don't have a degree. Also, there's so many different courses online and books and so many opportunities to learn that probably you don't need to have a special degree. If you're just interested in it, you can read books. I also tried the Microsoft Challenge recently, and then took an exam just for fun. It was really fun. I shared my experience in my blog, so that was good, and I totally recommend it.
Yeah, because you were never like with lot of cultural education on AI. You never received it because nobody receives it. Even if you have an graduation in ML, you're supposed to keep informing yourself the new technologies, the new algorithms which pops up in the industry, and you have to keep updating yourself. Like, how do you update yourself over this vast way in which AI and deep learning is improving over the course of time? It's like inch by inch with a new solution, step by step. It's a whole new transformation that we see in terms of frameworks, in terms of your worked in TensorFlow. That means like every version has a different way of interpretation. Like every time when we see TensorFlow, it's something different every time. So how do you keep updating yourself with respect to the information which you are supposed to gather?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I read books. I think you need to understand at least the basics of artificial intelligence and machine learning if you want to work with those technologies. So I definitely read several books about the basics because those basics, they probably will never change. But it's easier to build on top of that base level. And what I'm doing now, I am active on social media, so I see what people post there about technology and news, and also all those big companies like Microsoft and Amazon and Google. They are eager to share their news because they work so hard in development tools and also in AI sphere. So they want you to learn about their technologies, and it's so easy to find. They share newsletters, they post it online, and internet is connecting all of us, so it's easy to get information there.
Yeah, that's true because we are the millennial kids. We have all the privilege of getting into social media. We can choose whether to go with our passion or else just for the fun of it. Because there is fun part also. You can really go up there and you can just waste your time. But yeah, I do follow a lot of blogs and I do follow a lot of people out there in Twitter. And blogs. I think blogs are really amazing in terms of getting that knowledge. Let's just talk a little bit on your professional journey because you had a banking job and you really hated it because it happens. You might have a passion in something, but it might not turn out to be the same fruit that you want every day. Like, yeah, that's true. Like, let's just talk more about your professional journey. How was your professional journey paved you and molded you as what we are seeing, the Veronika, the two-time MVP, and the engineer that we are seeing today, the same Veronika that we are seeing today?
Thank you. Yeah, so I started my career as a quality assurance engineer. It was a fun job. I really enjoyed it, but I wanted not only test those software products I was working on, but also develop something myself. So at some point, I was combining two jobs. I was a senior quality assurance engineer and a junior developer. So at that company, I am really grateful that they gave me that opportunity to learn and grow as a developer. And thanks to them, I decided to completely switch and just do development work. And I've been a developer for I think more than 7 years. I stopped counting at some point, so I don't age myself anymore. But yeah, I think it's a good journey, and being a developer, you are learning new things all the time, and that's what I like. And then being part of the community, MVP community and developers community all together, that is really exciting. So I can share my knowledge and people can share their findings with me, and it's just so exciting. I keep learning every day, and as you know, I'm interested in AI, so I'm trying to integrate some AI into the projects that I'm working on.
No, but like, let me just get that thing. Like, how was your MVP journey started? Like, of course, we all start with the books, we all start with the blogs, and afterwards we want to deliver some content to the world. So that's where we start with the YouTube. I started off this YouTube channel not for monetization, because there is a mutt called a Siddhganga mutt in my hometown, and that has really gave me the dream of achieving something more. Because of that, I think probably I can openly say that it's because of that place, that holy place, I think we are what we are today. Or else I think probably we would have had been something which is not even what we are today. I think I'm very thankful to that place. So that's the place where they give free education, and there can be a lot of funding that they receive, but like, giving something from your side gives us satisfaction. So that's where I started off with this YouTube channel, not for the monetization aspects, but for that satisfaction of learning something and also giving somebody an education. That's where I started. That's leave that part, because it's all about that satisfaction of working in something, satisfaction of learning from somebody like you, other scientists that I've interviewed and things like that. Like, what really made you motivated in terms of getting that MVP standards to your approach? Like, you need to have that charisma of being an MVP. You can't just be like a normal engineer, I'm just going to code all day, I know Python. It doesn't work like that. What it takes to be an MVP altogether in AI?
Yeah, that's a good question, and people ask me that question a lot. I don't have a recipe. There is no recipe like, oh, you need to go there and do this, or you need to do that. There is no recipe because there's I think there are more than 2,000 MVPs around the world, and every journey is different. I think I really thankful for my public speaking and my love for sharing the knowledge with the community. I think that's how I got that MVP award. But they usually don't explain why you get it. They just give it to you. But that never was my goal. So I never. It wasn't okay. I need to do this and that in order to get the award. I was just enjoying sharing my knowledge, presenting at different conferences, and then they I got noticed, and I got nominated, and then eventually I got my MVP award. But to start public speaking, it wasn't easy for me. I had lots of concerns, and as I think most of developers, we're not that social. We just like to sit in our cubicles and write some code. And it was definitely scary to start public speaking. I wasn't sure if people would be interested in the stuff that I can tell them, how it all works. It was all a mystery for me, but I'm glad that I met the right people along the way, and they helped me a lot. They helped me to start public speaking, and at some point I had a mentor. He is working for Microsoft, but I already prepared my first presentation. I already practiced it several times, but I couldn't push myself to actually schedule it and do it. So he told me, okay, you can try once, but if it doesn't work for you, you don't have to do it ever again. And that was the push that I needed. I'm like, okay, I'll do it once and we'll see. But people at that my first meetup, Actually, that was at Boston Azure user group, and now I can't even imagine. I'm a co-organizer of this group, but at that time I was just starting out, and they helped me a lot to start. And when I was delivering that my first presentation, people were excited, people were friendly, and it's important to see that the audience, they want you to succeed, and that positive energy from people, that actually is amazing. And that's what keeps bringing me back to community and share my knowledge. And I'm not only sharing my knowledge, I'm also learning from people who come to my talks. They ask good questions, we have great conversations. It's just amazing. So it's like win-win stories. I'm getting the knowledge, I am getting that positive energy from people, and also I am sharing some knowledge that I have.
Yeah, teaching in community actually builds you up. Like, I have literally felt it because, I think I approached you because for a webinar, and we are now doing a podcast. That's where
That's
that's
good.
where that's where teaching in community, I think probably that selflessness, you don't expect money, you don't expect anything. You just want those participants to go out with a lot of happiness and learning that new thing. That's where we also get satisfied. That's true, because teaching in community builds you up as a whole new person. Like, let's just go and at real side of an AI. What do you feel about the AI which we are developing these days? We are trying to build an AGI system, which is NLP, computer vision, everything mixed together and just given out to the world. We have not yet completely demystified how the brain works, and we are trying to build a brain on a burning box. What do you feel about the AI that we are building today?
Yeah, so we are doing amazing things. All those big companies, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, that is just amazing what they're doing. They not only build their tools for people who are not data scientists. There are lots of like, for example, in Microsoft cognitive services, that you don't need to have any background in machine learning or artificial intelligence. You just plug those REST APIs to your code, and then you have all the benefits of AI. But also, there are tools for people who want to customize machine learning models more, or maybe build their own models. And that's great. They're providing those tools. And it's just limitless what people can build, what kind of models they create, what kind of scenarios they can implement. There are so many opportunities right now, but definitely uh, people should go ahead and try them. I know that some people, they just afraid. They're like, okay, I'm not a data scientist, I don't want to touch it. But start with small things like cognitive services. I started with cognitive services. I just fell in love with them right away. And that's pretty much how I started my journey in AI, because it was easy to start and easy to implement, and then you see the results right away, and they're just amazing. But I know there are other tools like that, and for all levels of knowledge, on all levels of professionals.
But like, what do you feel about the frameworks that we are actually getting right now? CNTKX from Microsoft used to be some of the very good frameworks for quite a good of time, but PyTorch and TensorFlow is running very good in terms of the frameworks that we are seeing today. I think market has really adapted itself for PyTorch and TensorFlow in a very good fashion. I think Theanos is gone, Kefi is gone, almost like nobody is trying to use it, and Theanos is actually depreciated. Like, what do you feel about the frameworks that we are seeing today in terms of AI and all the applications that we are deriving using that?
Yeah. So if you want to talk about those custom tools for developers, for data scientists, then yeah, TensorFlow is huge. They have lots of different opportunities there, so you don't need to know TensorFlow so deep because there are so many different connectors. And also they have TensorFlow JS. If you know JavaScript, you can just use that. There are connectors for C# developers. And I know ML.NET is available. So if you're a .NET developer, meaning you develop with C# on F#, you can also work with TensorFlow models. And then, PyTorch, they just released support for PyTorch in VS Code just a couple of days ago at Build. So that's exciting too. I'm glad that Microsoft is not just put their technologies in a block and that block is not connected to everything. I am so happy that they are trying to connect to other tools and technologies in different clouds and actually keep moving forward with the tools that are popular in different communities.
Thank you so much for this amazing podcast. Because a lot of times when we think of like two times MVP journey or things like that, we forget that they need to learn. I think probably you covered most of the points, like whether you are an MVP or not, you have to keep learning, you have to keep updating yourself at every given point of time, because there are a lot of people who might even say that you were just lucky to get that award or something like that. So yeah, I think you demystified a lot on this thing. But I want to ask you this one question, but like, what's the thrill of being selected over and over again? Because I think probably there are 7 time Wimbledon champions, like they have achieved something in the world of tennis and things like that. Winning something over and over again, you need to have that consistency. But what really motivated you to be consistent?
So yeah, that's great question. You actually asked a lot of awesome questions today. Thank you for that. Uh, so being MVP, when I got the award for the first time, I realized that it's just a different world. It opens for me so many opportunities. I can go to different events, and the MVP community itself is so supportive. People are helping each other. um, we can ask questions each other. We can communicate with Microsoft Teams directly and ask questions and maybe complain about something if something is not working. So it's a whole new world. And once you get into this world, you don't want to leave. That's why it's a good motivation for me to continue working, to be able to access that vast amount of knowledge and so many different opportunities, meeting people, going to different events, going to conferences. It's awesome. I love it.
Thank you so much for this amazing podcast. This also made my day. This is my fourth podcast of today. This is my
Oh,
fourth
wow.
podcast of today. Like every weekends, like I get busy of something or the other. Yeah, I'm glad that I'm doing my podcast consistently and I'm meeting a lot of great people like you, the other scientists, the other professionals in the world of AI, and even other topics like DevOps and things like that. And I've done with even non-technical people also. So yeah, I'm satisfied that I'm doing this podcast. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful podcast.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.